via the video. I also record it via audio in case the video screws up. How's that? So welcome to everyone that has become a dental codologist. I am the chief dental codologist. What kind of title is that? Anyway, I kind of like it. Patty DeGangi. And I think I know everybody that's already a member on some level or another to our first mastermind. Now this mastermind, the first one we're going to do here is going to be a little different than the rest of them because we're going to kind of talk about, you know, and how this is going to roll for us. So let me just get started. And many of you have heard I have become a dental codologist, and he wrote it up. Yeah, there's part of me that can't believe that I've ended in something.
I lost you, Patty.
Everybody there? If you want to mute your microphone for right now. So I ended up as a dental codologist because over the past 20, 25 years, I've started internalizing. Picking up somebody's really noisy. Otherwise, I can go ahead and mute everybody. That's what I'll do for right now. Remind me of that later, somebody. Anyway, that I've internalized the beliefs that we can cure periodontal disease, that we can have a world with no oral cancer, and we can meet the 2020 goal of the World Federation of Dentistry to have a caries-free world. Some pretty high goals, especially on that 2020. We better get on that one. We don't have too much time left. It all comes down to, so often, what also people can do financially. And then it comes down to the codes. It comes down to metrics. And it's kind of how it evolved into getting into this whole dental coding thing. Now, one of the things about that's different is dental coding is not the same as dental insurance, dental benefits, procedure. Codes are what we're dealing with, procedure codes and diagnostic codes. But a dental codologist, you know, what does it really mean? What have you signed up for? Well, every single one listening here, I don't even have to ask you this one. I know you've had frustration around this area. Even if you don't even want to deal with it, that's frustrating. Because most of us had no coding, no matter what our educational or our degree background is, we've had no education or training in coding. And a lot of what you have heard from the podium or you read an article is often incorrect. So that's the challenge that we have. Yet from the very first connection with a patient, there's some part of it that's important that we have it coded properly. So Merriam's dictionary says ology is the study of. So the word dental codology was coined by me for the study of dental codes. One of the things I want to be very clear on, the E is silent, okay? A lot of people pronounce it dental codiology. It's dental codology. And even on this equation, it looks like it's two separate words. Now, the word dental codology is a single word, but you as a dental codologist is two words. You are a dental codologist, okay? I want to give every single one of you thanks for signing up, for becoming part of this community, for trusting me, because this is an evolving idea. It's not like everything is going to be this way or that way or whatever. We're going to create the group that we want, but it really is through all of us that it's going to be successful. So tonight is about building a foundation, looking at some things. Now, for some of you on this call already know, or you are one of the committee members. For the last 10 months, 9 months, 10 months, whatever, something like that, I've been leading a very robust group of dental hygienists that have been working on codes. Now, what we have here as dental codologists is not the same as that committee. That committee's work is to specifically help dental hygienists get a voice in coding by being a member of the code committee, as well as the SNODENT committee. I'll explain those in a second. This group is different than that. It's not that there is an overlap. There is, but that's not our complete purpose. Our purpose is broader. And what this mastermind is, and I don't know how many of you have been involved in mastermind sessions. What it's not is this is not a class. So this isn't our once a month we get to listen to Patty talk. It's all about all of us. Now, we do plan to bring in some guest speakers as well as corporate sponsors and corporate supporters. We will, and that's the part that's still being developed, the opportunities that you're going to have with the corporate sponsors, also opportunities that go beyond just work around this group, but also connections for articles and lots and lots of opportunities coming up. But the main focus of our mastermind is brainstorming. What that means is brainstorming is there's no such thing as a silly thing, or we're not going to judge what somebody else says, because the art of brainstorming is just letting it go and letting our brains go, which is why I found this light bulb going here as a really good symbol of our mastermind. It's also not group coaching. Now, it's really about helping each other. It's about getting advice, it's about getting support, it's about getting feedback, because each of us are in different places, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Each of you, I'm going to have each of you share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what's your main coding question. There, I gave you a little clue of what's coming for you. Okay. The reality, though, is we're all in such different realms. This is not a group for just dental hygienists either. This is for anyone that's interested in the whole world of dental coding, whether it's a dentist, a hygienist, an assistant, a office manager, a public relations person, we'll get to that one, or whomever else. And eventually we will have probably more corporate people also joining. This is not a group that I'm going to limit to who can participate. The safe place, though, for that brainstorming. Now, part of creating a safe place is that we trust each other, and then we trust that what's talked about here is kept within our group. It's also really not a networking group, although we'll have lots of opportunities to share leads and resources and make connections. I know the world of the internet, and I know so many people across the country. I know I'm going to Boston this week, and the number of people I'll know there is just amazing, because we don't really live in just our little communities anymore. So networking and joint adventure opportunities will be available to you with this. Now, let me tell you about I talked about my dental goal as far as my beliefs about those high goals, but my work, and when I talk about my work, I'm at the point in my life, I feel like I'm in the lane where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, making a difference in ways that sometimes surprise me, and I'm meeting the most amazing people that are on a similar, congruent, or whatever journey. But my work is really on a much higher level about our healthcare system. I think anybody can agree that our healthcare system is in trouble. We've got, well, some of you know the story of this last year with my husband and myself, but let me share a number. My husband had really complex back surgery. I've had a whole issue with breathing. We'll just leave it there for now. But we just looked up online, and just this so far this year, there have been $519,000 that has been paid by our insurance carrier or us, or however we want to talk about it, this year alone. And it's September 13th. How much more could happen this year? We've got a system that I've spent a real lot of time in the healthcare world in the last 3 months. I'm talking the medical side. And the best thing I can say is there's no negative intent. But we sure have a lot of outcomes that aren't as good as they could be or should be. We don't collaborate. So my work is to help not just wait for somebody else to figure it out, but to help shift the healthcare system into something that's more functional. And again, whatever your politics are, whatever's going on in Washington, most of what's being discussed there or what has been debated there isn't going to solve a thing. Mostly that they've done is argue. But what can is, and this is agreed of by at least 65 to 75% of the people that have been actually working on healthcare reform and trying to get it, is that one of the problems that we have is that we have a system that pays for volume, and we need to move to a system that pays for value. And this is not I did get this from somebody else, but I think it's a really important part, that this is really where we're at and where my work goes, and the work that I want to do with you is the paying for volume side. Is we focus on the processes with limited data on quality, cost, and outcomes, It tends to be a rigid workforce with the scope of practice models being very narrow, relies on the practitioners as the exclusive source of decision-making. The care is provided in silos. Now that's also a description of why we should be moving into things like teledentistry. The unfortunate, that the second to last one, that relying on practitioners as the exclusive source of decision-making. I've been reading an amazing book in the last few days called The Patient Will Be With You Shortly. And it's all about our healthcare system that has been designed very paternalistically. And even though we feel like we've moved from it, we really haven't that much. Our patients, though, are becoming more savvy because they have more access to information than they ever had before. The care provided in silos, I know even when I've worked clinically, the people I end up talking to the least is other hygienists. I hardly ever talk to the other hygienist, let alone the interprofessional collaboration. You know, the whole idea of the oral systemic. Are you kidding? We don't even talk to each other as from one dental practitioner to another very well. Think about our referral system that we've been using for however long. You know, here's a bad sheet of paper that we're going to send with the patient who may or may not go, and then we'll eventually get back a bad sheet of paper. And I don't say it's a bad sheet of paper, it just doesn't have any information that's really of any great value. So speaking of value, paying for value is the focus is more on the patient-centered. The primary care is expected to manage the populations with data, big data. The more data that you have, the better decisions you can make. You've got to figure out how to manage that data, though. That's the important word there. It also leads to a loosening of restriction and expansion of duties. Now, again, I know there are many hygienists on this call, and we certainly go, yeah, we know. Increased dependence on evidence-based decision-making. Now, that's a really important thing, and actually on our next mastermind call, we're going to talk a lot about EBD, because that process can be both beneficial and abusive, and I'm seeing it used both ways. And it's something we need to be a lot more aware of, because there are things that are going on that for many of us are underneath the surface, but they are really going to affect our practice in so many ways in the future, in ways that we don't even understand yet. And then there's the last one, paying for value, is the increased collaboration through technology. Now, I use technology like I drive my car. What do I mean? I have to understand it. Just get it and drive it. And that's where we've come with technology, almost sometimes, except when we don't. Yeah. So, but that's where even something like this collaboration that we're doing from people all over the country, that we can collaborate through the technology. And that's a very important part. Again, it's about measurability and paying for value. Now, when we talk about these things, codes become the metrics for measurement. When we're talking a value-based system, there has to be measurements of effectiveness. The codes are part of that system. So they are very important metrics. So they're much beyond the dental benefits. They're much beyond the $1,000, $1,500 that we're going to try and maximize for people. It's much beyond that. And if you notice, this is talking about the world and the world of codes. The thing is that if I'm going to change the world, I can't do it by myself. That's why I need all of you. So that's why we've invited you to be a dental codologist. So you want to talk about the bigger meaning of what we're doing? We're changing the world, people. We're changing the world. Why set low goals? Let's set high goals. That's what those specific dental goals I talked about before. But I really can't do this alone. It takes all of us. I just am amazed at, again, the collective knowledge that we can do so much more. Now, one of the people that I depend on an awful lot is our dental codologist, executive director, Patty Beeson. So yes, do I pick to work with somebody that has the exact same dang name as me? Yeah, and we both spell it with an I, and we're almost twins. Okay, maybe not. But Patty is the chief dental is the dental codologist, executive director, as well as with the rest of my work. And I'm going to unmute things because Patty, would you please tell everybody what is your job description?
Well, other duties as assigned.
Yeah.
All other duties as assigned.
Right. And the other reason I wanted to turn the microphone on is one of the things that she's doing for our dental codologist community here is she's also managing our private Facebook page. So Patty, explain this one that you wanted me to talk about. And I'm like, well, you explain it yourself about where we're at with this
Okay.
and what we need.
We've just started this page up. I did ask, and I saw several people came up with their burning questions, because we all have questions that, you know, somehow never get answered, or someone argues. Anyway, we all have burning questions. But in order to join this community, you have to request to become a member, and then I can go ahead and admit you. So if you will go on Facebook and go to the Dental Codologist Community Membership page, ask to be a member, I will admit you, and then you can start conversing with us, conversing with each other, anything that you want to post on there, okay, within reason. It should be fine.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless
So
there's a
that's just another.
firefighters.
That's our other part of between our masterminds that we have here on a monthly basis. This is our place to go and connect with each other, and again, talk about whatever it is that we want to talk about, and share things there, because it is a private page and a private link. Patty and I will be putting on posts a few times a month or a week, or whatever we're doing, Patty. Anyway, to keep the conversation going. I can't always get on there. And you don't have to wait for me to answer the questions. We are all experts, okay? And we give our ideas and share ideas. Now, what we're not going to do those. We're not going to diagnose. We're going to look at somebody's x-ray, and we're going to diagnose this and code it from that. That's what makes me crazy about what goes on in Facebook and LinkedIn and all of those things in communities now. We want to create a community that has accuracy, that is sharing information that is based on what we have known and what we've learned, and going to the resources, not just making it up because this is the way we've always seen it done. That's the way most coding is done at this point. Because there was no training, no education, we just kind of make it all up. We want to become the resource, and you are the leaders in that movement. Ooh, movement, I like that word too. There's somebody else, though, that is helping me, and he is here on this call. And I don't think I would have gotten this far in my business without him. Mike Ventriello and I have been friends, I don't know how many years, Michael, but a bunch of years now. And Mike, why don't you share a little bit about who you are and a little bit of how we're doing the newsletter. Are you there,
Great.
Mike? I saw you.
Well, thank you. I didn't expect to take part. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Anyway, yeah, Patty and I go way back. We've collaborated on things. You know, we're up to no good on certain other things we've worked on, but this is something that, you know, Patty's been thinking about for a while, and I just basically helped maybe give it a little clarity and you know, form to something that was a big block of granite, and I chipped away at it and helped it along. But basically, Patty's vision. So, what specifically, Patty, would you like me to explain?
What you do in dentistry and your connection, but your connection in the broader world of public relations, because your perspective gives me such clarity because of who you've worked with before and the different industries you worked with before, but how well you know dentistry because you've been working with dentistry for a certain amount of time.
Sure. I've been a marketing communications and a public relations professional for, oh my God, more than a quarter of a century, maybe 30-something years. The past decade, I've been specializing in dental. Came from the high-tech arena, found a job in dentistry and marketing, got up to speed pretty quickly, and you know, I never looked back. They say once you work in dental, you never leave. I believe that because it's a very relationship-driven business. And that's part of what I do. I mean, I do try to connect people, find, you know, symbiotic relationships between key opinion leaders and companies and dentists and manufacturers. And I'm basically a conduit. That's kind of how I see my role. And I've worked with companies in, the oral systemic space, diagnostic, CAD, CAM. So really the full breadth of dental technology and emerging technologies and products is probably my specialty, I would say.
And that's why he gets what it is that I do. We spend at least an hour every Monday brainstorming and trying to figure this out, and that's what Michael brings. So thanks, Mike. Thanks for being here on this call and helping me get this kicked off, because this has been a dream of mine for many, many, many years that I saw. Now, I don't think I saw it exactly like this, and I certainly didn't think I was going to have the name the Chief Dental Codologist, but I knew that I wanted to have something, because by nature, I'm a collaborative person. I love, and as Mike said, dentistry is a very collaborative. We like talking to each other on some levels. We can communicate better on others. Now, one of the things that's coming, it isn't quite there, but it's closer than it ever was before, is that we're going to have by the way, that DCM stands for Dental Codologist Member. So that's our little abbreviation for your role. And we're going to have a portal. Now, where that red arrow resides is where you will see it. But you will only see it because you are a member. I had a choice when we began the setup of this, is whether or not to make it a password protected thing to get you in, or just to have it on our end that we set you up, that it only comes up for certain people. And I thought about it, and I don't know about the rest of you guys, but if I don't have to remember another password, I'm good. So it will be a no password needed, and I expect to have that up and running within the very short period of time. That was good, vague, huh? No, really, we're very close. But that's where the information is going to be for dental codologist members only. Now, at this point, the newsletter is going out to a broad audience, but that will become a member only. And when we have a member only part, there'll be a lot more member benefits that are going to be offered through the newsletter, because there's lots of benefits for you with what we're proposing here. One of those benefits is the book that I'm working on now with Cindy Purdy, which is the exciting world of teledentistry. So this is going to be the 8th book in the dental codology series, Teledentistry Critical Choices. This is, as a matter of fact, it was through my research about that I found that table that was about that value-based versus fee-based. And this is where the advantage, of course, is always of being a member, is you'll be getting an offer very soon to get an earliest copy. It's got to be a little more done before I offer that. I mean, we did have something in the newsletter, but that's one of the books. The other book I'm working on simultaneously is the CDT Shifts. This is the book that I have every year, and this is about the changes that happened that we will start to see in 2018. Some of them, I already mentioned the teledentistry codes, but the one where I see, whoa, exciting stuff is we are going to have an HbA1c code. You talk about something that can really bring the oral systemic together, but we need to have more than a code that just brings it together. Just this week, an article that I wrote for Dental Town in their print Dental Town Journal for September is that I posit the question is, why does it take a code to make dentistry change? But codes really do help shift thinking. But it's really interesting where we're at with some of these newer codes and how we're going to shift it. But this is where us all coming together, because it's going to take more than just a new code to make the shift actually happen. So we let Patty talk, we let Mike talk, I got to talk. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a time for each of you to share a little bit, your name, the role, and I say the role because that's however you want to describe the work you're doing now or whatever. And if you have a burning coding question, that we will put it on now. What Patty's also doing is we have a chat box, and if you want to also put your burning question in the chat box, we'll make sure that we get to it. We're not going to be able to answer, and it's not going to be just but we will not be able to answer all the burning questions, possibly any of them tonight, but we will, and we will as we go along. So, who wants to be first, Chris Potts? Did you like that one?
Thank you so much, Patty.
I thought your name was Chris, so I had to do it. Although Chris
And what
actually is one of two people that bought my very first book. She's like one of my first people on my first dental codology book. Great friend. Thanks, Chris. Go for it, girlfriend.
And explain to me again what I'm speaking on.
Name whatever role you want to call, whatever you're doing these days, and any burning coding question that you might have. And you have 36 seconds. You don't have to...
Okay.
Okay.
Chris Potts, and I am a independent consultant on CureProx and WaterPick, and also a speaker on varying topics for consumers, dental professionals, and other health professionals as well. And the coding is a question that comes up all the time. I'm very active on a lot of the social media forums, and I believe I posted several burning questions earlier today that I had gleaned from some of these other sites that I thought would be of interest to the majority of other practitioners that hopefully we can have answered.
What would be an example of that, Chris?
I believe one of them that I know I posted them and then I forgot them, Patty. I mean, God, give me a break.
That.
There's been a lot happened since this morning. But I think one was about whether or not you can code out X-rays when you don't have an exam.
Oh, got it. Okay. That's a great question. Really is. It's not an easy, simple answer of yes or no. And this is the difference between an easy answer and a dental codologist answer. We're going to go look at the code specifically, and not just the code's name and not just the description, but the general descriptor of the section and a lot more to come up with the right answer for that. Because that is not an easy answer, because if nothing else, there is no code just for taking X-rays. And again, I'll just leave it there for right now. There's something else, though. You have another title, because I just wrote an article about you as something that you do very different than a lot of other people. And what is that, Chris?
Preventive prehabilitation. And I thank you for the shout out on that, Patty.
Explain what that is.
It is prehabilitation rather than rehabilitation. In dentistry, we do so much that is rehab. We try to fix things after the damage has been done. And what the prehabilitation is mostly referring to oncology patients, because they go through so many oral care issues during their treatment, from the time that they're diagnosed until their treatment is complete, and even long-term issues after that. And used to be that we only had 1 or 2 or 3 choices of what we could do to help those symptoms, and there wasn't much that we did to prevent those oral care issues from happening. So now there are so many products on the market, and there are many ways that we can prevent the agonizing oral effects of oncology treatment for our patients, and be more understanding, more preemptive, more proactive, and prevent, again, the devastating oral effects.
And that's exactly what all the research says, and what anybody that's in that world of moving us from a fee-for-service to a value-based system said, and we know it. Again, we have a lot of hygienists on this call, that we know that prevention costs a lot less than therapy, yet majority of our healthcare system, even in the way we have traditionally practiced dental hygiene, really comes from if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's part of, again, our work. So thank you, Chris. Angela Craig.
Hi. Well, I'm in private practice a couple days a week, and I work for 2 different nonprofits. So At the nonprofits, I don't use codes, but I do in my practice. But I'm also on the board of dentistry, and strangely, codes come up all the time, and I get phone calls and emails about it because someone will call and say they're doing so-and-so in our, like assistants are doing pro fees in our office, and that's not legal in our state. They're coding it, you know, and is this against the law? Well, that is, yes, assistants can't do that. But then sometimes it'll just be something like they're alternating the codes for perio maintenance and pro fees, and we've usually heard that that's not allowed. That takes a new diagnosis and some things like that. And the hygienist is arguing with her boss that it's against the law. So she calls me. I'm like, well, no, it's not against the law. But when if the insurance company comes back on you and says you are doing fraud, well, that's against the law. That's when the board gets involved. But I mean, and just like all these other things, it's so complicated. It can be many different things. But anyway, it's come up quite a bit as I've been on the board of dentistry, and I think I was contacting you through LinkedIn a couple weeks ago. We had a question about the new code for drawing blood, and that went off.
Talked about, right?
It went left field on that one. They decided assistants could do it, and and then these offices were going to get the platelet-rich plasma. Like, well, Anyway, that's all I've got to say there. But I'm so glad. I'm very interested in hearing and learning and all. Thank you.
And I think the point that you made is really, really important, because that's what I find in what I'm doing is just the difference between fees, codes, and coverage are so very different. Laws and rules and, you know, all of those things. We have this mushed up thing in our heads as practitioners very often, and we need some better clarity around all of that. So thanks, Angela, so much for being here. I see, Noelle, you just called in. So give us a little bit of who you are, what your role is at this point, and any burning question you might have or whatever.
Sure. Well, hi, everybody. My name's Noelle Paschke, and I have been the poster child for just about every type of dental hygiene position that's out there. And I was a hospital hygienist, the first hospital hygienist at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. Served on the State Board of Dental Examiners in Maryland recently, well, fairly recently, a couple of years ago, moved to Montana. Before that time, faculty at the University of Maryland Dental School. So lots of different things. And then in the corporate world, had worked at Dentsply and Philips, Oral Health Care, and now with Acteon. And so my interest in this area is for a number of reasons. One would be related, the codes related, certainly related to insurance submission, but I'm very interested in it from a metrics gathering, metrics and data gathering about what procedures are being done, and an interest in how, as a company like Acteon, with the equipment that we have, how can we provide resources for our customers so they understand when they're using the equipment, or even before that part, before, you know, pre-purchase, how they might be able to interact with their patients with the ultimate goal of delivering better patient care. So I've been a big Patty DeGangi and Patty Beeson fan for a long time. I've got like corporate size pom-poms that I cheer for them, and I'm happy to be a part of this group. So I think that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Any burning questions at this point?
Actually, you know what I do? I was on a webinar last night, and I heard a speaker, and she was talking about I'll call it the infamous D4355. And the question that was posed to this speaker was, if a patient refuses treatment, what code should you use when you're treating the patient? The response was to use the D4355 for a holding pattern for about a year. And it certainly piqued my interest, because that wasn't my understanding of how that code would be used. And could you just clarify that?
Sure. That one's a really quick one, and that is basically, if they have done any kind of evaluation, they cannot use that code. Period, done. It's not a holding pattern code. The code itself, go into the nomenclature, the name of it, as well as the description. It says that we're just taking off big chunks so that we can enable an evaluation. So there's a whole lot of problems that could happen around that. That code is the code I call the vestige code. It's a code that needs to go away because it's a code from people that are still thinking gross scale, fine scale, and they think of it like you said, as a holding code. And in actuality, the one thing there is going to be a difference in 2018 is that at least we got the gross scale language out of the descriptor. That took quite a bit just to get that done. So again, we can explore that further. Jean Wentz.
Hello. How are you?
Jean?
Blast from the past. Can you hear me?
I can, and you know, it is a blast from the past. Are you, is it Ohio or Pennsylvania?
In Ohio. I'm private practice, still full-time in a group practice. And I've just been, following you. And since we worked together in a continuing education class years ago, and the codes, our office went paperless with our charting. And so now we're looking at codes all the time. And so I've been, have your books and trying to impart knowledge to the powers that be in the practice that make those decisions. But anyway, that I guess my burning question is, what how can you, what do you do with our new code, our 4346 code? If people want to use that like a gross scale?
Yeah, there's a whole nother. Now that is probably one thing I've been doing more courses on than anything, as a matter of fact.
I'm trying to explain that's not what that's for, and anyway, so.
Here's what I believe about the 4346.
What do you do?
The 4346 code is a fantastic code for opportunity to rethink our entire way that we diagnose and treat periodontal disease.
Right.
What it does is we have a code now for that gap that we've always known that we're there. So the treatment that we're doing is the same treatment we've been doing, because is the treatment really different when someone has gingival disease? Well, the answer is probably not, but what we have is we have an actual category for it now. And it's really a concept that isn't just a number. And that's, in a lot of ways, it's that code that really pushed this whole dental codologist. And we'll spend time now. I'm actually doing a webinar. Well, I'm actually speaking for Exion in Massachusetts this weekend on it, on Friday, as well as Colorado. I'm not going out to Ohio though anytime soon, but I am doing a webinar next Tuesday for RDH Magazine. That's Wednesday, and I can send you the link on that if you want. And there's more, and there's also part of the dental codologist. Patty and I are building a course. I don't know if you've heard of dentalpost.net. It's one of the biggest job sites out there, and we already have one course up there, and we have another course on the gingivitis code that we'll have up there soon. And of course, as a dental codologist, you'll have an opportunity to get that course at a different cost. But anyway, in the meantime, I'm more than happy. That's what the gingivitis code is about. But I've really been working with it so long, I found that there's 8 points that you will, if you've gotten your gift, you probably have gotten the card I put together. It's like a business card.
Yes.
What I did, and that's in laminated. The reason why I did the plastic, so you take it in the treatment room with you, and I put the 8 most important points on there. And at another time, we can go over what those are and what that means. So thanks, Jean.
Okay.
Yes, we have that. That was really, really a long time ago in Ohio. It's got to be, 18, 20 years ago? I don't know.
It's hard to believe that it would be that long ago. So it's been a long time. So,
yes,
yeah.
Love it. So thank you.
Thank
So
you.
Kendra, my friend Kendra Sellers is here. So Kendra, talk to us. Kendra, I see your name.
Patty, Kendra is at her daughter's volleyball game, and it's really, really noisy.
Okay. Okay, well, Kendra will talk another time. Because the reason why this is important, because when it comes to the brainstorming, this is where we're all going to really get to know each other. So Kathy Fowler.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
I practice just in private practice. I've been a full-time for 27 years. I attended one of your seminars a few years ago in Ohio from the airplane CE. It was awesome.
Oh, okay, with Judy Bendit?
Yes.
Our crazy one, yeah.
I'm I'm just joining in, and we have a new doctor taking over our practice, and I'm excited to kind of bring some new things and new ideas, hopefully, to the practice and get more up to date on it, all the new stuff.
Terrific. Terrific. Happy to help you in any way that we can, especially when you're having the net practice transition. All kinds of things can happen. So, Linda, I never say your name right, Linda. And I know you're on the phone, you can't see the screen, but can you talk to us?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
We can.
Hang on. You can. All right.
We can.
Pretty cool.
How's your hubby doing?
He is healing. He's coming along slowly, but he is healing, and he's waving at you right now as we speak because.
Tell them Mike is healing too. Our husbands had very similar, very extreme surgeries this year and a lot of other things. So we're living this healthcare system. So Linda, talk a little bit about who you are and your role and any burning questions you might have.
Well, I am a 40-plus year dental hygienist, still practicing full time, and I work in an office group practice with 4 general, all with different thoughts and theories. 1 general manager. We're not very good on the following procedure and protocol. There's 6 hygienists, and it's kind of everybody for themselves, sad to say. So I don't have a specific burning question for this evening. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can because I'm still trying to be the best version of myself that I can be. And a shout out hello to Chris Potts, who I absolutely love and adore, and I'm so excited about what she's doing now too, as well as you, Patty. And I'm just trying to get to know as much as I can so I can make improvements with what I do. And I do constantly present ideas and changes to my boss that sometimes get listened to, sometimes don't, but I just keep trying.
Yeah, and that is the way. And that's also, as we go along, this is definitely this group about helping each other and learning from each other. If there's also a way that I can help you in any of the specific challenges that you have, again, like Angela mentioned on her going to the board, her role at the Board of Dentistry and some information and background that she needed there, Linda with your office, Jean with your office in transition, anybody that, I'm more than happy to help on an individual basis too. And last for tonight is Renee Johnson. Renee?
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be on the call. My name is Renee Johnson. I am a hygienist. I've been in practice for 35 years. I spent 30 years in clinical practice in the same office. And at the last 5 years of that stay, I was working on my bachelor's degree, and I finally got it online after 5 years. And then after that, I became a clinical faculty at an outreach site for our university School of Dentistry, 100 miles from the School of Dentistry. So, and I'm from Minnesota. So I'm 100 miles west of Minneapolis. And that's where
You're
School of Dentistry.
the immediate president of Minnesota Dental Hygienists Association, right?
Yes, I'm the immediate past. I finished in April. So yes,
I don't know how innovative Minnesota is. Minnesota is an amazing leader in healthcare. We know the Mayo Clinic got started there. It was at the Mayo Clinic back a little bit more than 100 years ago we went from a system in healthcare of having a book in which everybody's records were all in the same book, to individual patient charts. They were the innovators in a lot of the electronic world. And I find that actually the M states are often very innovative. So does the Massachusetts, Maryland, Missouri. It's a really interesting pattern when you watch some of these bigger situation. And that's that I've been doing a lot more, is looking at that bigger picture, not just the individual picture where we are. Because when we're talking about a shift in healthcare, we need to shift it not as just in individual places, although we make the bigger shift by shifting in individual places, but by looking at this bigger, how it all works together. Now, some of you that have been on the codes committee have heard this before, but it never hurts to go over it again. And that's where I said is what we're going to do is talk about the evolution of CDT, SnowDent, a little bit about code ownership, and then how you get a voice. And I'm going to do this quickly. It takes layers to learn this and understand it, but because the process is both a scientific, a political, it's a complicated process. Let me tell you the story. The CDT process, and CDT stands for current dental terminology, is not as old as many people think it is. There were some forms of it as early as in the 70s, but in the 60s, now again, this also depends on how old you are. For me, it doesn't seem like it's that old, but we used to have this thing called fee for service, where people would we would do dentistry and then the patients would pay us. What a concept. But what happened is that the world evolved, and there were the dental benefit carriers, insurance carriers wanted to, it has a lot to do with employment and things like that too, and just adding another benefit for people. So they started selling dental benefit policies. And even the names of the companies we know now as Blue Cross Blue Shield and that, now they all had different names back then. But it got crazy. So by 1985, it got so crazy because each company would have its own form. They used their own code numbers, and we didn't even universally use 1 through 32 as a tooth numbering system. Now, there's other ones that have been quite the veterans on this call, the same as I have, the same as me. And so you remember quadrant numbering, or 1 through 16, L1 through 16 and ER1 through 16. That was part of what the chaos was. So in 1985, the American Dental Association formed the Council on Dental Benefits for the first time. And that council was designed to charged with coming up with a code book that would come up with a system that everyone would use, that it would standardize. And that word becomes really important as we move forward, the standardization of things. And that standardization, one of the things is that we would use, universal tooth numbering system. We would all use these codes. There wouldn't be any question about these codes. Okay, they might not have got that last one too much, but anyway, and they were going to update it about every 4 to 5 years. So it took them until 1991. CDT-1 came out in 1991. So again, it's like, oh, it's always been like this. Well, I guess if you were born in 1990, it has been, but it hasn't always been like this. Second book came out in 1995, but between 95 and 2000, the world started to spin much, much faster. And it's technology as well as moving toward our interoperable electronic health record. Now, interoperable is the key word there. It is that dentistry connects to medicine, that connects to pharmacy, and all of that. In order for that to happen, we needed to have HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability, whatever those letters are all stand for. We all know that one. And that came out in 1996. Also in the mid-90s, about 97, 98, somewhere in there, the insurance carriers themselves said, hey, we should have a say in these codes. And ADA says, we own them. No, we don't. Back and forth it went. It eventually went to litigation. And in that litigation, it was decided, the result of it was that ADA will tell you they won, and the insurance companies will tell you they won. And then basically, they really neither won. They actually compromised, maybe. And what it was is that it was the formation of what was called it went from the Dental Benefits Council, from ADA, to the Code Revision Committee. The Code Revision Committee was supposed to be an equal balance between the payers and the providers. And one of the things that they did decide is, again, in our fast, quickly moving world, is that we don't, having updates every 4 to 5 years is too far, because we have technology that's being produced and that we need to have codes sooner than that. So they went to a 2-year cycle on having codes updated every 2 years. Then they went to realize that, because the books were named CDT 1, 2, 3, 4, nobody was replacing their books. So they were using old ones, and the books became time-stamped. So then we had CDT for 2000, 2005, 2006, that sort of thing. And that's really important, because there's a lot of people that are still thinking in what a code might have been several versions ago, because they don't look at what's current. So that time-stamped, and the way I talk when I have the opportunity to talk to people about that, using a old CDT book is akin to using an outdated carpule of Anastasia, okay? We just shouldn't do it because we need to have the most current. That term of that litigation went from January 2001 to December 31st of 2011. On January 1st of 2012, a new committee was formed. It's called the Code Maintenance Committee. By the way, the members of these committees were, in the beginning, when it was the Dental Benefits Council, it was all of the specialty organizations, AGD, and they got in there and they were the ones that were deciding. When it was, again, it was the Code Maintenance Committee, the Code Revision Committee, it was an equal, again, between all of the 8 specialty organizations and the insurance carriers. Have I mentioned dental hygiene here? No, I have not, because we've never had a seat at the table. When the new committee was formed in, came into being in January of 2012, they again went back to all of the recognized specialties of dentistry, and there's 5 members from ADA, 1 member from each of the specialty organizations, 1 member from AGD. There are representation from the insurance carriers. It's a 21-member committee. Again, dental hygiene wasn't there. One of the first things that they decided is that, again, the world is spinning so very, very fast that we need to have new codes every. But one of the things that's really important for you to understand as dental codologists is the American Dental Association owns the codes. Now that's different because the American Medical Association does not own ICD and the coding systems in medicine, but ADA owns the codes, and it went to, as I said, it already went to litigation. And if the insurance carriers with their deep pockets can't win, I didn't fight them. So in order for me to do the work that I do, I carry 2 licenses. I carry a license to write on codes for publishing, and I have a license for seminars. Now, that's important because, again, there's a lot of information, and even whoever brought up about that information that was given about the 4355 code, the D4355 code, again, it's misinformation from the podium. And people can talk about codes from the podium, but only if they talk about maybe 1 or 2, and that would be under what's called the fair use doctrine. But if you talk about more than that, you're supposed to have the license. And what I'm encouraging each of you to do is look for the license, to begin to be aware that if someone has a license, they'll have this kind of language in there. Part of it is because your license requires you to have it. So as you can see, a license to use the ADA codes granted to me. The use of the statement enables the speaker and the host organization to hold a CDT course. Dental procedure codes are owned and published by the ADA, la, la, la. You can read the rest of it there yourself. And the plain form itself is also owned by ADA, and as is Snowdent. Now, Snowdent is the one that we're even less familiar with. But one of the things that's happened for me in the last couple of years is I've been sitting at that codes meeting down at ADA, mostly by myself as a hygienist, for some time, and apparently my participation was recognized. And in addition to the CDT book itself, there is a CDT companion, which is a book that gives explanations and scenarios and that sort of thing. And it was previously written by the American Dental Association staff. And in late 2016, they decided they wanted to invite what they said is, professionals that are out there in the field doing things. And they invited me to write a chapter. So I wrote the chapter on adjunctive general services. And what I'm proud to say is it's not about me, but it's the first time a hygienist has ever had any credential or any recognition in the CDT world. I also wrote the update for the chapter for 2018, and that is the section that has the new teledentistry codes, which is why I'm writing that book on teledentistry, because I've already written on it for ADA, but it's more than what we are going to get, what you get in the companion. Now, again, the codes are updated every year, and the reason why they're updated is to embrace the new technology, materials, procedures that lead to the early arrest and prevention of oral disease and positively influence systemic health. I read it that way because that is a quote from the Codes Committee itself about that was their rationale for having an update every year. It's really important to understand that as dental codologists, because we can play off this. We can remind them when they get in their stodgy, we don't want to change anything moods, which they do, that the reason we have annual updates is because of our fast, quickly moving world. And we have seen some codes in the last few years that are like, wow, I'm surprised myself. And even the D4346 is being an example of that. For every year that I ever attended the codes meeting, there's something that goes in there about treating gingivitis and gingival disease. And every year they voted it down. So back in 2015, 16, whatever, they came up again, and immediately the committee voted it down. And somebody said, well, we should write a book about all the things we've rejected a million times. And somebody else says, no, maybe we should form an ad hoc group for us to actually think and look at this to make a better decision. And that's how that happened, okay? Were there some politics going on behind the scenes to help create that? Yes. Is there another ad hoc committee that was formed last year to talk about like the age for the prophy codes? Does it make any sense to have age-dependent prophy codes? Personally, I think the whole prophy word needs to go away. But, you know, we removed the language from the fluoride codes. Why? Because the science doesn't support it. So that's why this statement is really important, because that was the committee themselves and why they said why we do annual updates. Now, ADA owns the code. We have the Code Maintenance Committee, and there still is the ADA Council on Dental Benefits. Again, each of these are related but different, and as we explore this and as we learn more about this process, that difference becomes evident, okay, and important. Here's the list of the 21 members. As you can see, there are lots of them, but still not enough, because we don't have dental hygiene represented, we don't have assistants represented, there's no laboratory represented, and so that's where it's at this point. Now, SNODENT. SNODENT is what the American Dental Association has decided. Well, 10 years ago in 2007, they first started working on SNODENT. And as you can see there, SNODENT is a subset of SNOMED. SNOMED is a diagnostic coding system vocabulary that is recognized in medicine. ICD is probably one that we know better and most people recognize. And ADA decided they wanted to go with SNODENT. And as you can see, the reason is it's all about electronic health records. This goes into, again, the codification. There's a word you probably never used before, and I never used before the last few years, but it's the codification of our world. In order for dentistry to be interoperable with medicine, we need to have diagnostic coding. But the reality and the work that I've been doing for the last few years is about getting us even to think diagnosis. One of the biggest problems that I see all the time when it comes to coding is we don't diagnose, we just do stuff. When it comes to perio, we think, oh, it's type 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are not diagnostic codes. They never were. They're treatment categories. So this whole world of diagnostic coding is we're going to spend on this, the work of this, the dental codologist is going to be a lot in this area. Because this area is very much developing right now. And to have a say in this and influence on this is really important. Here's some potential benefits of SNODENT. And I'm not going to read them. I just want to go to that last one, because this is the term for learning tonight, and that is granular data. Okay. I kept reading about granular data, and I'm like, granular data, what are they talking about? The system for diagnostic coding is very granular. You don't have to find the word with word. What I mean is, and what that's meant by that is it's like little grains of sand. We have a thought process in dentistry that it's almost like a 1-to-1 ratio. There's this care, there's this code. There's this care, this code. That's not the way it works in diagnostic coding. A single case could have 4 to 6 diagnostic codes, okay? And that's a very much of a learning process that we're going to have. We're talking, our CDT has less than, I don't remember, it's in the hundreds how many codes we have. When we're talking about SNOMED, we're talking in the tens of thousands. The CDT ICD has gone over 100,000. It's a very granular world. And it support evidence-based practice. Now that's the buzzword in healthcare, evidence-based practice. That means we need to have evidence behind what we do, and we often don't. But again, next time we'll talk more about that. And I want you to think about that and start thinking about that for our call next time is, what does EBD really mean? Now, you can get your voice heard. You could get off this call, and you could be so frustrated. We need a code. And you know what? You could go to ADA and actually put a code in, because anybody can submit a code. Doesn't mean it's going to get heard, but you can. We have given our voice away to other people by not being involved. And again, that's another purpose of our dental codology community. We're stronger together. Again, I can't change this world alone. That's why I need all of you. That's why, please, I'm going to ask you to share this idea and being a codologist with friends and other people that you know or within your office. At this point in time, as of 6 o'clock before we got on this call, we had 51 members. Obviously, not everybody can make this call. That's pretty exciting for a kickoff of something really new, but it's about, and especially because we're changing the world. So our future masterminds, we put on already in the newsletter. We gave you the dates through the end of this year, although they're set through the entire year of your membership. So we do them mid-month. We're going to do them on Wednesdays. No matter what day we do them, there's always going to be a challenge to somebody not being able to make it. It's not about attendance. We're not taking attendance. And they will be recorded, and again, on that portal I showed you online. So next time we're going to look at a little bit of evidence-based dentistry, some fact fallacy, look at how it's influencing best practice. Best practices is not something that's known in dentistry, but it's real well known in medicine. So that's part of what the agenda is going to be for next time. Agendas are also designed by us. All the mastermind sessions, you'll get an email like you did this time within 24 to 48 hours. You sign on, and here we are. So I want to thank each and one of you for being here. Anybody have any final comments? I also try to very much honor the time that we're here for an hour. So anybody have any final comments, thoughts for tonight's mastermind? Well, I guess then it's time to say goodnight to all of you, and we'll see you all on Facebook. So again, if you're not already on our Facebook page, as Patty said, go over there and ask to be admitted, and we'll start talking and start answering those questions. And we really will answer those burning questions. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Patty. Thank you.